Hey there, welcome back. Today we are building a super useful project, a BMI calculator. But first, let's quickly talk about something that makes coding easier, functions. Tired of repeating the same code over and over? Functions help us clean that up. Let's dive in. Functions are like a coffee machine. Instead of brewing from scratch every time, you just press a button and get your coffee. Similarly, functions are blocks of code you can reuse whenever needed, saving time and effort. A bonus tip, modularity is like sipping coffee in small sips instead of trying to gulp down a whole pot. By breaking your project into smaller pieces, it becomes very easy to manage. We will be diving into modularizing our code soon, but first, let's cover the basics of functions. A function is a reusable block of code that performs a specific task. For example, instead of writing the BMI calculation everywhere in your code, you can create a function to handle it. Functions take inputs, process them, and return outputs. Here is an example. In the example code, greetUser function prints a message, but you only write it once and can call it anywhere in your code. Easy, right? Now keep that in mind because when we build our BMI calculator, you will see how functions really shine, but we will come back to that soon. BMI stands for Body Mass Index. It's a simple way to use your weight and height to determine if you are at healthy weight. The formula is BMI equals weight in kilograms divided by the square of height in meters. You're said to be underweight when your BMI is less than 18.5. Your healthy weight is when your BMI is equal to or greater than 18.5 but less than 24.9. Your overweight when your BMI is equal to 25 or less than 29.9. And your obese when your BMI is equal to or greater than 30. Enough talk, let's dive into some coding. Our BMI calculator will ask for two inputs, weight and height. Easy, right? But what if someone enters negative numbers? That's a problem we will handle later. For now, let's start with getting the user's data. In this function, we are prompting the user for their weight and height, converting the inputs to floats, and returning both values. Simple. But what if someone enters an invalid input? We will handle errors soon. But for now, let's focus on collecting basic inputs. Now for the juicy part, like I mentioned earlier, the formula for BMI is BMI equals weight in kilograms divided by the square of your height in meters. Now here is the fun part. Let's put that in a function so that we can call it anytime we want. The function takes in weight and height, applies BMI formula, and returns the result. By wrapping it in a function, we have modularized our calculation. Now, you can call it anytime you need it to calculate BMI. Neat, right? Okay, we've got the BMI value. But what does it mean? Is it healthy, underweight, or overweight? Let's create a function to interpret that. And you'll be wondering, how do we give feedback on this result? Don't worry, we're getting there. This function takes the BMI value and checks it against categories. It returns a message based on where the BMI falls, whether you're underweight, healthy, overweight, or obese. Simple, right? Now that we know what BMI is, let's put all together. If you're new to VS Code, don't worry. Here is how to get started. Open VS Code website, download and install it if you haven't already. To create a new Python file, open a new folder or workspace. Right-click and select New File. Name the file BMI Calculator.py. Follow along or copy the following code in the new file. Ensure that you have Python downloaded. If you don't have it yet, go to python.org and download Python. On your VS Code, click Terminal or use Ctrl+Shift+Tick. Navigate to your file by using CD path to your file folder. To run the program, type Python BMI_calculator.py and in the terminal, and boom, there's your result. VS Code makes writing, running, and debugging Python super easy and is widely used in the developer community. You can access the following code on GitHub. Check the description for the link. Notice how we've broken the code into small reusable functions. Imagine if we didn't. Things would get chaotic fast. Functions allow us to stay organized and focused. This approach makes your project easier to manage and debug. Remember how we mentioned earlier that users might enter wild data? Well, here is how to handle it. We can add error handling using try and except block to prevent our program from crashing if a user enters invalid data. The following code ensures that if users enter something invalid, like text instead of a number, the program catches the error, prints a message, and prompts them to try again. No crash, just a smooth retry. And there you have it, a simple BMI calculator. You have learned how functions and modularity keep your code clean and organized. See how much easier it is to follow now. Now is your turn. Try adding your own features, maybe error handling or BMI chart. If you run into any issues or want to share your results, drop them in the comment section. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button so that you don't miss the next video. Happy coding.